I'm always interested in people that come to politics in sort of circuitous routes. So like, people that are just interested in politics all the time bore me to know. It's just endlessly boring. Like DC swamp people who are just obsessed with how many Republicans are in the Congress or whatever. I'm interested in people who come to politics because they care about health. And then they suddenly learn something that, oh my God, we've been lied to, and this has something to do with the CDC or the NIH. Or somebody
Yes.
who is a teacher,
Yeah.
somebody who is a teacher and said that there are biological differences between boys and girls and gets fired. I'm interested in that. And there's many other examples of that. There was this guy, James Damore, who worked at Google about a decade ago, and they wanted him to take part in DEI stuff. And he was like, well, actually, there's reasons that men and women are different. And they fired the guy. I'm interested in those types of people. And that's what this new alliance that I definitely would include you in, and I would include people like Sage Steele, and I would include Zachary Levi and RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand. It's like there's this wild alliance of people who are just trying to get something true, to find some, or let's say, put it this way, to pilfer some kind of truth out of this nonsense and hopefully restore what America's founding principles were.
Dave, you bring up such a good point there, because the reality is I'm not political. I don't know anything about this. And the reality is that prior to the last several years, I didn't care. I would just blue, check, 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 check. That was it. And I was convinced that we were right. And the truth of the matter is, I do align with the Democratic Party of about 10 years ago, most likely. But I am starting to see this erosion of universal truths like biological sex, like being overweight, it can be healthy at any size, these absurdities. And then outside of that, I'm seeing the most alarming things, like John Kerry saying the First Amendment is a barrier to the truth. Like,
if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick, and, has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground.
Hillary Clinton suggesting that people who spread disinformation, which is absolutely, like, who's the arbiter of that? You bring up all these points of misinformation on both sides, suggesting people who do that should be criminally prosecuted and charged.
And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
And now you've got Bill Gates saying, oh, you know what I think? Maybe an AI that can really filter through social media and weed out disinformation.
What is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules? Because you have billions of activity, and if you catch it a day later, the harm is done.
This is so deeply alarming and dystopian that as a mom, as a global citizen, we're seeing this spread into Europe, into Brazil, that I don't even consider this political. I feel like anybody watching who tuned in about health and fitness, you'll get all of that. But by the way, did you know? And I think people are waking up because they are coming for them one at a time, the way you suggested. And I just had your former colleague, Anna Kasparian, saying, well, I got attacked in the streets. And when I was pointing out problems with the way the Democrats were handling crime, then they went after her and tried to purge her. When I suggested that you couldn't be healthy in any size, they tried to purge me. And I think so many on the left are still quite comfortable because it's the deplorables that are spreading misinformation right up until it hits home for them. So
yeah, well, interestingly, just real quick, I don't talk about her that often, but since you brought up her name, I mean, Anna Kasparian, that's exactly what she was doing to me and my former colleagues were doing to me. I was on the lefty Young Turks network. I started waking up to some of this stuff, and they've done endless awful videos about me and lied about me and everything else. From what I understand is what you just laid out there, because I've heard it from some other people. I obviously don't watch their videos, that now she's coming up against that. And the thing is that I believe the truth is the truth no matter what. So if she's willing to go down the road to the truth, she'll figure it out. But yes, they will not stop trying to destroy her. And then ironically, what always happens to all of these lefties who wake up to things is that they find that suddenly the conservatives, the sort of, and I don't mean conservative in the most traditional sense. Let's just say people that are broadly on the right are much more open-minded. They're willing to agree to disagree. They're willing to live and let live. There's a much stronger libertarian position as it comes to living your life. They may have their own religious beliefs or other things, but my own life is an example of that. As I started waking up from the craziness of the left, I started talking to some people on the right, like Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and Jordan Peterson and Larry Elder and Glenn Beck. All of these people that I was told are evil, horrible bigots, and they hate gays. And
Yes.
and it was like none of it was true.
Yeah.
These are all people who I've broken bread with, who they've been to my home and sent us baby gifts. And my older son, his middle name is Jordan, in honor of Jordan Peterson, who was at one point told, we thought he was the leader of the alt-right. It's all completely bananas. And I would say that should give everybody great hope, because, we can all feel very scared. This is scary stuff, talking about, in essence, the dystopian future that you're laying out. It feels like we're at the beginning of a sci-fi movie where it's like we all know we're entering this very weird place where the robots are kind of going to take over, and maybe they've already taken over. But in the AI movie, or in the dystopian future movie, the sci-fi movies, usually everyone just kind of wanders into it blindly. The strange thing about the reality we're having right now is we're all realizing the algorithms are manipulated, and also, Grok, tell me what this is about that thing. So there's a very weird moment here in humanity where we're merging with the machines, and yet every bit of science fiction and I'm a big sci-fi guy, and I've read every dystopian novel ever. Like, every single one of them was warning us about this very moment, on top of now the political craziness that has just completely infected the algorithms, the system, whatever you want to call it.